Hard-boiled Haggerty in the ring now.
Today's the heyday of the pretty boy.
Kowalski is called killer for blocking Gene Stanlee of Chicago.
She likes it. Oh, boy, that can hurt.
Right here at ringside while we go in for a riot of roughhouse that's flatly called wrestling. Comes now a lesson in the first two of wrestling's 3 R's, reeling and writhing. The Black Panther doing both. That pitch sure has slowed him down. Beg your pardon, Mr. America, but you know it's not polite to turn your back on people. Okay, we had reeling and writhing. Now we come to the 3rd R, Razzle Dazzle, starring Mr. A. This is the technique introduced to the game by the great Gus Sonnenberg and Jumpin' Joe Saboldi. The flying block that came to the ring from the football field, getting up steam by bouncing off the ropes and using the Panthers as a tackling dummy, and it's first down. A shoulder block, and it's 2nd down. Bouncing off the ropes on one side, then racing to the ropes on the other side, and the Panthers knocked flat as a flounder. He doesn't know what hit him or where it came from. Ha-ha, tut-tut, my good man. Pick yourself up and let's get on with this mayhem. Mr. America will wait for you at the corner.
To fully understand the remarkable achievements of wrestling legend Mr. America, we must travel back in time to the community of Avondale in Chicago, Illinois, where on the 1st of January 1917, a boy christened Eugene Stanley Zygowicz was born to his parents, Victoria and Paul Zygowicz. Gene's parents had married at the very early age of 14, and then had immigrated from Poland to the United States. They moved into a small house at 2914 North Greenfield Avenue in Avondale. Gene's mother, Victoria, was to bear 15 children. Gene was one of the youngest of 9 boys and 6 girls. 1917 was yet another turning point in the history of the USA. On April 2nd, they had made their debut into the world of international politics, when the US Congress voted 90-6 to declare war on Germany and fight alongside the Allies. As an act of solidarity, England had sent the young Prince of Wales to the USA. There, he enjoyed the rites of passage as he was feted with a parade on Broadway. He then reviewed the US fleet and culminated his historic visit with a review of the military cadets at West Point. In Chicago, jazz was all the rage, as the first ever jazz record was released by Victor. It featured the original Dixieland Jazz Band playing the one-step. Mary Pickford had become the darling of the silver screen as she starred in the movie Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, earning $19,000 per week, while her friend Charlie Chaplin was busy signing a staggering $1 million a year contract. On December the 30th, 1916, just 2 days before the birth of Eugene Stanley Zygowicz, a monk by the name of Rasputin was murdered in Russia. He was the confidant of Tsar Nicholas II and his wife Tsarina Alexandra. Within 10 weeks of this event, the Tsar abdicated and the Russian Revolution was a fait accompli. Its impact was to be felt worldwide for generations to come. By the time Gene had reached 5 years of age, fate dealt him a blow that would change him forever.
At the age of about 5, I fell down the steps and I lost my speech. I was sort of paralyzed and started to put me in bed, and I was given up for dead. And I remember the priest coming over and gave me my last rites. They said he's not going to make it. Until they took me to a strongman, and at a church they had a strongman performing, and I seen the ovation. So that gave me sort of an idea. It sort of gave me an incentive what I would like to do with myself. So when I came home, I started moving my fingers, my feet, my toes, crawling and doing whatever I can to get stronger. I come from a very poor family, and things were really tough. I'd be the one to go to bakeries and to go shopping for them because they couldn't afford bakery goods, so I'd go and ask for day-old bread, day-old whatever they had at the bakeries, and I'd bring home for the family. At the age of 8.5, I wrestled. I entered the tournament, and I beat 11 older boys. I had fear of people. Because children at a young age made fun of me because of my speech, because I'd lost it and I couldn't talk too well. So I had to overcome fear of big kids, big boys, and so what I did, I would challenge everybody, and that made me stronger and stronger. I'd go to the railroad station, and then I would bring iron weights. They'd have metal laying around, heavy, 5 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds. I'd take that home and build myself a gym. And that's the way I did my training, because I did not know of trainers. I did not know of people to teach you what the sport I was in. Ever since then, I kept on winning. So I collected, all total, before I turned professional, 165 trophies and about 50 gold medals.
It was now 1942. Japan had dealt a lethal blow to the US Navy on December the 7th, 1941 at Pearl Harbor. Sadly, the world was once again at war, and all young, healthy Americans had been called to arms. Gene was no exception to the rule, and soon found himself in a naval boot camp. Because of his earlier career as a machinist, he was to become an officer aboard a US naval floating repair ship. His older and favorite brother Steve, who later was to star with Gene in the ring, was already serving in the US Navy. They both saw fierce action, and this is how brother Steve remembers the battles in the South Seas.
There's no way that you could come out of this alive, so what's the difference? Just a matter of when's it's going to stop, like 10,000 planes overhead and the big sea battles or ocean battles.
When they released me from the service after 3.5 years, I got so much publicity in Chicago, Illinois, headlines, and being the Navy's strongest, best-built man, and beating all the records and all the different things that I did in the service, that promoters got a hold of me from all over the United States.
There they go again. This is the kind of wrestling Stanlee did on 35 islands of the Pacific in his 3 years of service with Uncle Sam's Navy during the war. Mr. America was known as the strongest man, the pin-up boy of the Navy. Right now, he's practically a pinned-down boy. Slam coming up. The Black Panther going down. There goes another, but the Panther takes it on the rebound, and Stanley's got Rosin on his back, but he moves in fast. Somersaults the Panther onto his shoulders and upends him for the count in the wrestling match of the century. A guy who won fame by winning a male beauty contest brings sex appeal to the wrestling ring. His press agent says.
I kept on beating him along, so they turned me pro, and I started getting a hold of money, finding out about money then. I was getting anywhere from $300 to $1,000 a week, and that was big money in my life. When I walked in with the ring, I would add a little showmanship to my style before I wrestled, and I noticed that as I was achieving more and more, my showmanship was working real well. I started getting ideas. I seen that the sport was not bringing in women, so I started glamorizing, thinking of beautiful costumes. This is one example of one of my costumes that I wore. I had 52 of them, and I never wore the same one twice. It took a whole year before the people seen it. I would always come out with another one, a different one. This is an example of a towel I would put in the corner. I'd come out and take my jacket off and my belt. I'd wrap it up in here, so my opponents are waiting for me and driving them so crazy, waiting for me to start the match.
The Mr. America costumes, together with showbiz razzle-dazzle and good looks, paid off big time for Gene Stanlee. He became the highest-paid wrestler, bringing in record crowds to his wrestling events.
I have about 50 fan clubs all over the United States, and that was getting around the world. Had over 200,000 girls registered, and they were building me up there, cheering me on. Every match, you'd go out there at the end of the match, And since I was packing them in, over 75% women, waiting for my autograph would be anywhere from 50 to 300, 500 women would be waiting for me. I feel a lot that I owe was to women because they did so much for me. This is the original pin that any one of my fan clubs of 200,000 girls that were registered in my fan club would receive, and they belong to the fan club.
Wrestling tonight in Madison Square Garden, a grappling thriller highlighted by two mighty men from the Middle West, Killer Kowalski of Detroit and Mr. America, Gene Stanlee of Chicago. Stanlee is the blonde boy, of course, and Killer Kowalski, his opponent, is also billed as the Polish Giant, and his dimensions warrant that nickname. The Killer stands 6 feet 7 inches tall. He weighs 275 pounds. A lot of meat and potatoes went into that makeup. Say, a lot of temper, too. Okay, the fuss is over and wrestling resumes.
I got an idea, what can I do for the youth of America to foster Americanism? So I had a Declaration of Independence. In the middle of the Declaration of Independence, I had the Pledge of Allegiance. At the bottom was a picture of Eisenhower, at the time he was the president, and a picture of me. I would hand these out everywhere I wrestled. I handed out millions and millions of them, must be close to over 5 million. I got tremendous amount of compliments. I wrestled at the time when Milton Berle was doing his show, and then Bishop Sheen was doing the show, and I started competing against them. I was on the average of about 14 times a week doing personal appearances, television, newspapers, radio. So I was getting more publicity than Bishop Sheen or Milton Berle at that time. It was so outstanding that I was getting gifts from all over, from women, from promoters, from the clothing companies. I was living like fame and fortune.
Gene Stanlee, who was known as Mr. America, is probably the flower in a carnation. In a business full of colorful wrestlers, Gene Stanlee is going to be remembered as one of the very first people that had the long blonde hair, the $1,000 robes, the bounce in the step where he'd strut around the ring. There's been many people since him, but Gene Stanlee, probably along with Buddy Rogers and Gorgeous George, was one of the first big three that would get the ire of the crowd before he even wrestled. Just when he'd strut into the ring, by the time the ring introductions were done, he had the crowd on its feet. He was a wonderful, not only athlete, but truly a great performer.
Don't you love the way Gene just prances around that ring? Be a chancery by Gene Stanlee. And a hip roll by Stanlee. She likes it. Gene says, all right, if that's the way you want to play, we'll play. All right. Flying mare by Stanlee. And a beautiful double knee smash by Stanlee. Headlock, crotch hold, and a body slam by Stanlee. This is the way to wear a man down. There it is again. Well, 3 for good measure. And a body press by Gene. This could be it. Yes. And Stanlee does it again.
Help fight that bad guy, boredom. Life can be great in an old 88. Terrific trio. Rich in looks. Get this 88.
I met my wife now, Erin. She was a student of mine. She came to me when I was a teacher of many actresses, many actors, and when she came to me, I look at everybody in a state of perfection. I do everything to help raise them to that level. And that's what I said to her. I would see and visualize her in a state of perfection, and I would help her. Even she would not know her own self anymore.
He's always a romanticist. I mean, every time I came for a lesson, it was always treating. He kissed me in 2 weeks, and I quit him. And I said, I was married when I met him. So I said, no, I'm married. Let's, no kissing, no that. I quit him. I said, I'm not coming back, and I didn't go back for 2 weeks. Well, then I went back, and he said, now, wait a minute, because he didn't want to be the one to break up a marriage because he liked my ex-husband, and he was his student. I mean, it was sort of a mess at the time, but I had so much fun during the mess. I did not think about marrying Gene. He had so many girls. It was just not something you thought of. He was a man who was a very dear friend to me, who was just answering all my questions. Of course, he was handsome, and he was easy to think about, but he was, I don't know, he just made life so much fun for me, and he had so much fun that I don't know when it happened. What I liked most was the confidence he had in life. And no matter where he went, he always could handle himself in the situation. I mean, so when we got married, we lived in South America. We were going to make Quito, Ecuador, our home, 10,000 feet altitude. But the government was a little difficult. I missed America and cried when I heard July 4th celebrations about America and all that. And I think he came back for me. I never saw Gene wrestle in the ring. I don't know how that happened. I wish now I had, but I saw him on a video that a former student had sent to him, and I got so mad at him because he really aggravated the opponent, and I understood that so well. I always told him sometimes when we get in an argument, and I said, quit being in the ring, we're not wrestling now, because he has a way of saying things that can get you very mad. And so I got mad at him, seeing him wrestle and all the stuff he did. But later on, I really began to appreciate and see the star and the greatness that he had.
Gene Stanlee. They were a Polish family out of Chicago, and I knew them quite well when I was wrestling in the Chicago area, and I even wrestled Gene a couple of times up east. They were both bodybuilders, weightlifters, and had a very good run. They were making some money, doing very well. And then Gene got on some kind of a diet. He told me one time, he said, I think you can actually subsist on water alone. I said, well, I haven't tried that one. But I said, not to be able to eat it all. I said, well, you can eat a little bit. Most people overeat. I said, well, I agree with that.
Train. We watched the diet and did our running and just everything. Worked real hard. We overdid it, yeah.
Wrestling tonight in Madison Square Garden, a grappling thriller highlighted by two mighty men from the Middle West, Killer Kowalski of Detroit and Mr. America, Gene Stanlee of Chicago. Stanlee is the blonde boy, of course, and Killer Kowalski, his opponent, is also billed as the Polish Giant, and his dimensions warrant that nickname. The Killer stands 6 feet 7 inches tall. He weighs 275 pounds. A lot of meat and potatoes went into that makeup. Say, a lot of temper, too. Okay, the fuss is over and wrestling resumed. Kowalski is called Killer for obvious reasons. He murders other wrestlers, as blonde Gene Stanlee is finding out right now.
Killer Kowalski was an outstanding Polish wrestler, as I'm Polish myself. He did very well in the sport world. He had credit to the sport world.
Gene Stanlee has that killing instinct, too. That was so much fun that the referee can hardly restrain him from doing some more. Busy little Gene has ideas. He doesn't know that the Killer is about to charge. Did it. Stanlee is still being hammered. He can't stand another blow. Well, maybe one more.
I would like people to remember me whatever they want to remember me as, whatever gave them enjoyment. If they see me wrestle and they enjoyed my style of wrestling and they remember me that way, then I would let them continue remembering me as that, and they get whatever they enjoyed, any part of me, I'd want them to remember me as.
Today, Gene and his wife Erin enjoy a relaxed life at their home in Redondo Beach, California. Gene can look back with pride on his outstanding wrestling career, having sold out Madison Square Gardens in New York 18 times. He's won 18 championship belts and 2 jewel crowns for being king of the mat. He has been the featured subject of over 200 magazine covers and boasted a female fan club of over 200,000 members. Gene has a degree as a Doctor of Philosophy. His wife Erin, before becoming an actress at age 18, was an accomplished pianist who performed at the Hollywood Bowl. Erin, a student of Gene's, went on to win the title of the healthiest, strongest, and most perfectly developed girl in the USA lightweight division. Through Gene's teaching, Erin is also a proficient teacher in yoga and metaphysics. And this is how Erin will always remember Gene.
I just feel that I was very fortunate in this lifetime to have met my mate, I don't know whether it would be called a soulmate, but I guess it would. Someone who was so much help to me and so much help to other people, and such a friend to everyone. There's so much to him. There's so much depth to him. There's so much more to him than the glamour of the ring or the way he wrestled. It's who he is within himself.
There is no doubt that Gene Stanlee practices what he preaches. Today, now in his mid-80s, he still does 1,000 push-ups and stomach crunches a day. He has lived by his philosophy of life as spelled out in his books, Reversing the Aging Process and Feel Great, Be Beautiful Over 40. Movie stars and even Playboy pin-up girls of the month have sought out Gene for his help and guidance. Gene has now formed a foundation. Its purpose is to help mankind find the truth about their highest potential so that all can be set free. Both Gene and his wife Erin, the woman he has shared the last 3 decades with, live their life according to this creed. They are both the living proof that they have truly found that peace of mind that so very few of us are granted.